I am Mel Wojtas, and this is the Pricing on the Cake.
Welcome to another episode of the Pricing on the Cake, the show that's all about helping women grow a profitable business they love with confidence and ease. Today, I'm joined by Mel Wojtas. Mel, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's going to be such a fun conversation. Mel, before we get into our conversation, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Mel, or most people, just Mel. And I actually help badass change makers, trailblazers, and innovators who predominantly women who run businesses in Australia to confidently enter and win business awards through my awards copywriting service, Mel Wrote It.
Amazing. God, I love that. How's that for an elevator pitch? It's just excellent. It's concise, it's punchy, it's amazing. And before we get into today, I really want to share with our audience how we met, because I think it's just such a funny and cute story. So for those of you listening, Mel and I actually met at CopyCon last month in Sydney. And what happened was I was returning to the hotel after speaking at the mastermind event, and I was heading to the bar for a drink because it had been a really long day. And I saw this amazingly fabulous looking lady there, just dressed to the nines with crazy colored hair. And I thought, we sort of smiled at each other. And I thought, I reckon she's here for CopyCon. She just looks too awesome not to be. And so I just, and this is just evidence of how extroverted I am, just waltzed up to this beautiful stranger and said, "Hi, are you here for CopyCon?" And she said, yes, I am. I was like, "Do you want to have a drink with me?"
Yes, I do.
And so we sat down and we had a great old chat. And partway through the conversation, I was talking a bit about, the mastermind day and the topics that I was talking about. And Mel, you said,
"Oh my God, are you Courtney Rogers?" It was like this, celebrity spotting moment. I was like, "Oh, I've met her in the wild."
It was amazing. Actually, the bar is very much my natural habitat. Okay. I've got to say. But no, it was such a funny interaction. That's probably like the one of two or three times I've been like, "Oh my God, someone recognized me."
I am a big deal.
Yeah. I'm a big deal to like three people. Amazing. Love it. No, it was excellent. Mel, I absolutely love what you do. And I love the passion with which that you encourage and empower women, to talk up about themselves, to toot their own horn, and to go after these awards. And so, I'd just love for you to talk a little bit more about that. Like, what got you into writing awards for these trailblazing women?
Yeah, sure. Thank you as well. That was very kind. I guess my new tagline is your awards hype woman, because I'm basically, I would say 80% writing, 20% hyping women up. Because, entering awards can be a really emotional process. And I don't think that's talked about enough, especially when it comes to predominantly women-centered issues like imposter syndrome, or not wanting to come across as arrogant or up yourself, and, just all the stigma that's attached to high-achieving, incredible, badass women. They're always told to be less, or dim that shine, or just be humble, and, all the things that mostly men would not actually ever hear from their mates. They're just 100%. Like, "Hell yeah, you deserve that award, buddy." Whereas with women, they're like, "Oh, I don't know, should I enter? Oh, I don't know.
Oh, there's so many others who are so much better than me. Like, I'm not that good."
So like, we second guess. It's kind of like, it's social conditioning, obviously, but it's just such an entrenched, I guess, issue of women just not wanting to put themselves forward. And I realized, there has to be somebody, like, could you imagine if you could just outsource that uncomfort? Because that's basically what I offer, right?
Yeah.
Apart from saving at least, an average of 10 hours per award that you could be doing anything else in your business or your life, or go to the beach with your kids. Yeah. I guess the biggest thing for me is that I get to take that on so that they don't feel so ick.
Yes. Yeah. You take that ick factor away from them.
Because it's a process, right? And I mean, some people, that feeling may never go away. For some people, it might be a process of working with me a few times before they start feeling more comfortable. Yeah. And then, you know, on the other side of the spectrum, there's some people that are just addicted to entering awards and they cannot get enough of them. And sometimes I'll have to say, hey, I think we should just do 2 categories instead of like 10. So it's definitely a spectrum. Yes. But I just love knowing that, you know, I can kind of ease that process so that people can start to feel a little bit more confident in themselves and in their business. That's what it's really about. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really, really big thing. You know, as my listeners know, I'm all about, you know, helping women feel more confident, because ultimately when you're confident, you're going to make better decisions. You're more likely to make the right decisions. And that's so important if you've got really particular goals for your business and where you want it to end up and what you want your life to look like, you know, years from now down the track. And I'm really glad that you mentioned the fact that as women, we are socialized to, you know, don't show off, like don't be arrogant, like don't be too loud, don't be bossy, you're a bitch, you're selfish, you're this, you're that. And we just underestimate the impact that this has on us as women and the way that it affects how we look at ourselves, how we look at our business, the decisions that we make. And it's really about being aware of it. And like you said, you know, that ick feeling, that sort of imposter syndrome, that self-doubt, you know, it's not like it's only true for women. Of course, men feel self-doubt and things like that as well. But because women are socialized in terms of expectations of what they do in their life, right? The expectation to get married and have kids, and, you know, women aren't generally, quote unquote, successful or leaders or things like that. And because of that societal expectation and the desire that we have as humans to fit in, right? To fit into the roles that we're given, we feel this like internal pressure that comes out, and it's like, oh no, I can't do that because then I don't fit in, then I don't fit the mold, right? That's of what a woman's supposed to be, right? So I just think that's excellent, and there's so much psychology there that I could, you know, talk for 7 days about.
It's my jam too.
So I know for myself, when I first started entering awards, you know, I would look at some of the other women entering and go, oh my God, like they've been on TV or they've done this, or, you know, they're earning all this money. Like, why should I even bother? And so I'd love for you to, I guess, encourage those who maybe haven't even considered entering an award because they don't feel like they're good enough. What advice that you would have for them?
Oh, that's a great question. And it actually put me back to the first award that I entered. And the first time I entered, I thought, oh my God, I've got no business doing this. Like, who the hell do I think I am?
Yeah.
And that's how I know what first time, and that's why I love working with first time entrants as well, is because I actually know that feeling. And I haven't won, you know, like I'm an awards writer, but I don't enter a million things and win a million things. I let my clients do that, right? Because I think even though I'm an awards writer, I don't enter absolutely everything because I want to stay close to that feeling of when I first entered my first award, which was only a few years ago, mind you. Okay. So I haven't been doing this forever. I've only just been in my business for 18 months now. And it was a happy accident. So I actually won a few awards myself, and then I co-authored a book, and then another friend who runs her own very successful business felt too uncomfortable and not confident writing her own submission. So she just asked me on a whim, hey, can you help me with this? And I did, and she won multiple times. Wow. And then she referred someone else and referred someone else. And then I was like, hey, I think I need a business name. Yeah. And then it kind of just happened naturally like that.
I love that.
And within my first year, I'd written over like 100 awards. So it was an avalanche, right? Yeah. But it was never it was never
a plan. It was never a plan from the beginning. I'm going to be an awards writer.
Never. Like I always, ever since I was little, wanted to be a writer, but I never envisioned that award writing was even a thing. But then it just kind of caught on, and then I realised I really enjoy pumping up women, especially those who have never entered.
It's so awesome, isn't it? I get such a high pumping women up, and then they go do awesome things, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So proud.
So
That's
anybody
actually...
Yep. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you go.
So for anybody thinking about entering their own award, the best way to do it is to rip that Band-Aid off. And what I mean is that there will never be a right time. You've just got to go for it. I would say if it's your first one, enter something that's free, and then there's no risk, right? What's the worst that could happen? You miss out, you haven't spent any money, you got to reflect on your business, which is the best part of entering awards.
100%.
You actually have to consciously stop and say, what have I done over the past 12 months? What could I improve? Where am I heading? It's like, I always say, it's like checking the pulse on your business once every 6 months, or even if you do it once every few months, 6 months, 12 months. It's almost like having a mini, strategy check-in with yourself and your business, because the questions that they ask are going to be around, what are your systems? How did you achieve these results? How are you promoting your business? And if you read these questions and you think, I'm not doing any of that, well, then that's a good thing, because now you know what you need to start doing and then enter next year, right? Yep. So sometimes even just entering, your local business awards, seeing the questions, reflecting on it, even if you don't get to finalist, use that as a blueprint of how you're going to plan the next year in your business.
Yep.
And then you'll know what it takes to become a bigger business or a more mature business or grow in your business or in yourself, right? And then it's just a stepping stone. I mean, I think my biggest mantra is that entering awards is not wanky. It's marketing.
It is.
Because it is just a marketing exercise. So I think that there's this big stigma of people who enter awards are a certain type of person, and I don't want to be that type of person. But they're for everybody, because it's a marketing exercise. Just as you would have a strategy for your social media, you should, every business, and I say that unashamedly, should have an awards strategy. Because if I had to choose between Joe Blogs down the road and another business that looked exactly the same, I would definitely go with someone who's been, has social proof from a third party, independently judged process than I would with the other person, right?
Yeah,
and that's absolutely. It's a competitive edge. So bloody go for it.
Oh my God. I love that so much. And, things like self-doubt and imposter syndrome, mindset challenges that we have, they are never something that will go away. No. Right? I just want to say that to everybody right now. Like, yes, if you see my marketing, it's full of bright colors and bold words and swearing and all this sort of stuff, because that's just who I am. Yeah, I know. Right?
Yeah.
That's why we get along so well.
We vibe.
Absolutely. And, the thing is that mindset issues will never go away. Just the other day, I was doing up a proposal for a $10 million company, and I've never done that before. And I was nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Can I do this? Am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Because guess what? Those mindset issues, they come from a part of your brain that is like the most powerful part. It's the survival part. It's protecting you from rejection. It's protecting you from losing something, or losing money, or, not being able to survive, or being in a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
What it's about over time is about managing that and becoming more aware of it. And the more that you, as you say, rip the Band-Aid off, the quicker response time you will have to those thoughts that come up in your mind that are like, oh, but I'm not good enough. And just like you said, even if you don't become a finalist, look at this through a different lens of, you get to reflect on your business, right? And that's something that not a lot of small business owners do. And that's one of the biggest gaps between the way that small business owners think and act in their business compared to, the owners of larger businesses that really know what they need to do regularly in order to ensure that their business continues and really, really thrives. I'd love to talk now about, what it actually gives to women, both on the internal side, what you've seen it do for them in themselves, as well as what it's done for their business, when they do become finalists or when they do win awards.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I'm so proud of everybody who I've had the opportunity to work with, because I can physically see the trajectory trajectory in their confidence and in their business and their visibility. And like, it's just, I mean, I've only been doing this for less than 2 years, but it's just wild to see where everybody that I worked with at the beginning is now, right? Mm. And I mean, I remember in one example working with a woman, and I just thought she is like one of my biggest role models, right? I was like fangirling her and what she stands for and the changes she makes in the world. And I just thought she is like the epitome of my ideal client. I love everything about her. That's awesome. And then we worked together and it was the same thing. She was just, I don't think I should enter this, I'm not good enough for that. And I was thinking, that's a load of crap. Like, let's just work through it together.
Snap out of it.
And then, within a few emails, she was just sending me other ones. She's like, oh, should we try this one? Should we enter this one? And then she's like, look what you've created. And I was like, ah. So like it just, once you realize that it's not as scary as you're thinking it is, it's so much easier once you get the first one out of the way. And I swear to God, knowing, even if you're a finalist, I always say a finalist feels like a win for me. Because you've actually been shortlisted. There could have been hundreds or thousands of entries. To make it to top 10 is a big deal, right? And even if you don't win on the night or you do win on the night, the connections that I've made from entering awards and networking with other finalists have far outweighed any wins that I've ever gotten. I would say almost all of my clients have found me through either entering an award or I've met them at the award ceremony, right? And I'm their clients now as well. So one of the biggest things for me and advantages for entering awards is that you're meeting other people. And if you're a B2B business like me, that is golden because it is a room full of potential clients and partners and collaborators and business BFFs. It's wild. And seeing some of my clients now after they've won a few awards, I always say wins promote more wins. So I don't know why, but they also win you grants. So it's the perfect social proof. So I know there's another business who just writes grants all the time, and they always say that, awards win grants, and they do because it's third-party credibility and social proof. So if you've won a stack of awards, doesn't mean that you should just hang up your awards, do
nothing with it.
Keep at least 2 a year, right? At least 2 a year to keep refreshing, because if you're a winner once, the judges will read that and go, oh, somebody else has already assessed these people and they're award winning. Put that in your supporting material and it stands out. Put that on every single piece of marketing that you have, your email signature, your social media, your Facebook and Instagram. Your
bio.
Everything. And please, if you do, leverage it and say that you're an award-winning business. Like, you just have to maximize it that way, because otherwise you're entering it just for the sake of entering it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it really is marketing. And seeing some of the businesses that have won these awards, now they're, multi-published authors.
Yeah.
And they've got 12 wins under their belt within 2 years. Like, it's just incredible to see. And it really does boost not only your business profile, but your professional profile. And as an entrepreneur and woman in business, that is something that is going to get you much further than the award itself, right?
Absolutely.
So building your profile, I always say, it actually boosts your personal and your business profile. And you need both. Because if you can't stand out as a topic expert or a leader in your field under your personal brand, then, the business can only promote itself so much.
Yeah, you're only drawing from things that you say about yourself and things that maybe your clients say about yourself. But you're right, having awards is like, it's an independent assessment, right? Someone completely independent. Because the thing with clients is that, because I'm quite social, I tend to become really good friends with my clients. And so people might think, oh, well, they just wrote that because
they're just buddies.
They're just buddies. It's they're just
friends.
It's fine. But having awards means that I'm like, no, not only am I apparently a good friend, but I'm also been assessed by these other independent judges who have said, no, she's legit. It's 100%. And I have to say as well that
Absolutely.
awards winning, or even entering as well as you're becoming a finalist and winning awards, just opens so many new pathways that you probably just weren't even aware of before. Like, oh, maybe now I can like go on podcasts more easily because I can say, hey, I won an award in this. You know, maybe I can excuse me, you know, put it in your bio. So when you send it to, you know, when you're putting it in a proposal or you're putting in, you know, a submission for whatever it is, it's just like you said, it's leveraging it and getting as much. That's the ROI, right? Is being able to use that and say, hey, I'm an award-winning blah, blah, blah. Right. Yeah. It's such a powerful statement, and it signals authority. It signals expertise, which then, you know, from a pricing perspective, because I have to talk about pricing because that's, you know, this is the pricing on the cake, you know, having a signal of expertise increases your perceived value of you to your customers. That increases their willingness to pay. And, you know, when people ask me, you know, when can I increase my prices? How do I know if I've, you know, deserve a price increase? I always say, you know, if you've earned one, and winning awards is one of the ways that you earn a price increase.
Absolutely.
You know, if you've won heaps of awards, that is evidence that what you're doing works, that you're giving value to your customers, that you're giving a service, providing a need in the market and doing a, you know, bloody great job. Yeah. That is absolutely going to increase your willingness to pay, and you have the right to increase your prices if you're in that kind of position. Right. And so then you have a path, you have a way of becoming more profitable as well, which means you can enter maybe some more awards and do some other aspects of PR sort of marketing and things like that. So it's like a domino effect. And
absolutely,
I'm really glad that you mentioned, you know, even just going for some local free business, you know, chamber of commerce, Rotary, that sort of thing, you know, test it out. And I say the same thing with pricing. It's amazing how similar our industries are. I'm just like, you know what, you don't know until you try it. You need to test it. Absolutely. You can't read your audience's mind, just like you can't read the judge's mind. You don't know if you're going to win, but the best you can do is try and see what you learn on the way. One thing that I would really encourage people to do is to be really careful of, if you do go ahead and enter an award, you know, whether it's by hiring someone like Mel to help you, which I 11 out of 10 recommend, or whether it's just you yourself. If you don't get any further than the nomination stage, don't let your brain force you to just like put it in the basement and then never see it again, because it's like, no, that, you know, that didn't make me feel good. That made me feel like I'm not legitimate. Maybe I'm not good enough. And that brought up all this stuff. Work through that, because if that is coming up now, that is going to keep stopping you indefinitely.
Absolutely.
Right? Would you agree with that, Mel?
Oh, I do. Yeah. And it just kind of, it sparked a thought that I had recently when I was helping probably one of my most established clients, in that she has been in her industry for decades, right? So much further ahead than me in my business journey. And I think, you know, one of the things that person mentioned in their submission was, you know, they said, how have you achieved this? You know, what has been the biggest, you know, driver for your continued success? And the theme in that submission, but also most of the winning submissions that I've done, have all said the same thing. They had access, continual access, and investment in themselves through coaching and mentors. And that can be the difference between, you know, a $10 million entrepreneur or a $1 million entrepreneur, 6, 7, it doesn't matter how many figures you're on, they all got there because they were tapped into constant mentoring and coaching. Whereas the people who didn't win or were just starting out didn't see the benefit in investing, or they didn't have the budget to do that yet. And I can actually see from doing, you know, over 130 or something now, that is an actual theme amongst most of the people that I work with, is that they all have a coach or multiple coaches, and they invest heavily in themselves just as much as their business. And I think, you know, even just if you've never entered an award before and you read those questions, you'll be like, oh, yeah. And now I can see where I need support, right? Because everyone's always like, invest in your systems, invest in your tech. It's like, yes,
so much to invest in. Yes, you
are the business. Like, you need to invest in you too. So invest in your mind as much as you invest in the actual thing that you're producing as well, because it can't run. I mean, it could run without you if you're an evergreen company and you don't need to be there. But I mean, invest in yourself.
Yes, 100%. I have to say, and you know, the consumer psychology backs this as well. When I spend money on coaches or mentoring, the amount of money I spend determines how much effort I put in.
Yeah.
And so I will literally, this is why group programs don't work for me very well. Right. I always work with one-on-one with someone. And yes, is it very expensive? Yes, it costs me a lot of money. I think last year I spent between 30 and 40 grand on coaching and mentoring. But I tell you what, I've gotten that back
ROI.
so much more. Do you know why? Because I did the work. Because when you put money on something, you value it. Right. And so I think that's absolutely true. I know I found that for myself. My clients have found that as well. It's absolutely true. I'm really glad that you mentioned that. I've got like 100 things going through my head of what I want to talk about, but I'm also mindful of how much time we have.
No, that's all right. It's all good. I know I'm probably going off topic. I'm sweating.
Oh, no.
I'm saying the wrong stuff.
Not at all.
Actually, I might mention something else, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
Another tip for anybody who's entering an award for the first time, I think most of the feeling of, you know, not being good enough or that awards were inaccessible or intimidating for me, in my experience, stemmed from me not actually knowing what the awards questions would be. So I had kind of this, well, it was ignorance. It was just a huge assumption that they would be asking me for my financials and metrics, and I don't even know that stuff yet, and I don't know my numbers, and I haven't been in business long enough. And that was all just the biggest assumption, because when I entered, the questions were things like, you know, why did you start your business?
Yeah, really quite basic.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? You know, what's the last, you know, 3 biggest achievements in the past 12 months? And I was thinking, oh my God, what was I afraid of? You know, here I was having this huge assumption that the questions were going to be like above my level of where I was and above my skill set or capacity, or, you know, and they really weren't. So I would also encourage people to, if you can, reach out to an awards writer, or even just enter yourself and ask, am I at the stage where I could enter this? And the chances are yes. I mean, I've written plenty of award submissions for people who are even pre-launch. You know, they're entering awards for ideas, right?
They don't even have a business yet.
They're entering awards based on a vision or based on a prototype.
Yep.
And they're in startup mode. And it doesn't mean that just because you don't, or you aren't ready or at a stage to enter one particular award, there could be another one. There could be 10 others that are more suited to a startup or the tech industry, you know. So it's really about, I guess, navigating your way through, because there are hundreds.
Oh, there's so many. There are so many
that just get a lot of media coverage, and there are a few to avoid. Like any industry, there are some that are more reputable than others. There are some that are more intense than others. There are some that seem very cliquey and some that don't. You know, it really is like any other industry, right? And it is an industry.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. 100%.
At the end of the day, you are entering as a form of marketing, and they are running it to make money.
Yes. Yep. So simple and so true.
Please just know that. It's not they're doing it, you know, they are doing it to recognize you and uplift their industry. But they're also, if the entry is free, I always say expect expensive tickets.
Yes. Oh, all the time.
And if it's really expensive to enter, it's probably a much higher caliber. Expect, you know, black tie gala. Yeah. You know, these things aren't free to run, so they cannot be free to enter. It's just a business transaction, just like any other business, I guess. Exactly. So just keep in mind, it's not it's not personal, it's business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that, you know, especially for us as women, it can be hard not to integrate things, you know, personally, internalize things and then get into overthinking. You know I certainly do that from time to time. I really like that you brought up the fact of uncertainty, of just not knowing what the questions are, not knowing what's going to be asked of you. And the thing is that uncertainty promotes so much anxiety in the human brain, and it's paralyzing. It's absolutely paralyzing. So really recognize that just because you don't know what the process is going to look like, what questions you're going to be asked, that doesn't mean you shouldn't enter, because that's just an assumption that your brain is giving you to keep you safe.
That's right.
While it's something that is helpful, you know, the survival part of your brain is certainly very helpful, and it's a good thing we have it. It's why we've been around for however long we've been around for.
Yep.
It's not always right, and it's not exactly fine-tuned for the modern world, right? Like, you know, entering an award is not the same as being chased by a lion, for example.
No. Can feel the same if you have a panic attack.
Yeah, exactly. It can feel the same. It's like, oh my God, like everyone's going to laugh at me and my business is going to fail. I'm going to end up being a troll under a bridge or something.
No, and I mean, it really is. I mean, even from my own journey, I entered my first award. It's now 2022. 2019 was the first year that I entered an award, and I thought, oh my God, it was just range of emotions, right? An entire roller coaster. And that's what I, you know, let my clients know, is that even if you're feeling incredible and confident in what we're about to submit, the waiting between submitting and the finalist announcement can be the hardest part.
Yeah.
Because then, you know, doubt sets in. You're like, oh, should I really have done that? I should have said this. I should have said that. Oh, I don't know. I've got no business doing this. I'm probably not going to be a finalist anyway. Oh, you know, I cannot compete with anybody else. You know, it's just like this whole, it's like you go into this chasm.
Yeah.
And
you start catastrophizing.
Yeah. And
you start feeding those thoughts because you're focusing on them.
Yeah. But can I tell you, I'll be completely vulnerable here.
Yeah, go for it.
Luckily, even as an awards writer, I feel that for my clients every single time. And every single time a finalist announcement comes out, I'm like, oh my God, I hope I did a good job and they're selected as a finalist. Oh my God. And I get anxious about it. I take it on. I know that they're probably feeling that way anyway, but I even dread the finalist announcement date. Everybody's stalking the website. You're waiting to see your name on the list.
You're refreshing constantly.
I'm like trying to read it 3 times, control find, type in their name just to be sure. Like, it's wild, but that's just the human condition. Yep. So just because I'm around this industry and, you know, these sort of things doesn't mean that I'm immune from that either. Like, I cannot wait for that day. It feels like 84 years.
It does. 84 years.
It's been 84 years. That meme is me every time. But it's like every few weeks I'm like, put their names up already, because I need to know. And then my clients need to know, right? So that feeling doesn't go away. Even if you've entered 100 awards, everybody is hanging on for that. You know, it's like trying out for the band and you're waiting for them to put the name up on the list on the pin board in the movies, right? That's the feeling. Yeah. And it never goes away, because even if you didn't feel confident entering, you still deep down underneath all that socialization, you want to be selected.
Yeah.
Right?
You want the validation of something that you actually know to be true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, Mel, this has been a fabulous conversation. We've gone way over time. I really apologize. But this has been really fun. What's a final piece of advice that you would give to our listeners, you know, women in business, to encourage them on their awards journey?
Sure. Oh, I would say that it is a journey and it is a strategic marketing tool. So never be dissuaded by what other people will think of you for entering, not entering, being a finalist, not being a finalist, winning, not winning.
Yep.
It is a marketing exercise. So that's probably my biggest advice, because most of the ickiness around awards and entering awards and people charging for awards, paying for awards, it all centers around what other people will think of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be one of the biggest barriers, apart from costs, let's be real.
Yeah.
Apart from costs, that can be the biggest barrier to people entering and building their own personal profile as a woman in business, because we're worried about what other people are going to think.
Mm-hmm.
So, that should be the last thing on the list, but I'm being realist. I understand that that's going to happen. So if you can just try and separate that to, I'm just going to do this as a marketing exercise and I'm going to reflect on my business at least once a year and then see how you go. And that's just how you can start, because once you decompartmentalize it as this is like me marketing my business on social media. I've got a content strategy. I've got an award strategy. Try it and you'll be surprised how much easier it is than what you're thinking it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all about the perspective. And the only thing I would add to that is what other people think of you, it's none of your fucking business.
Does not matter.
Also, doesn't help you. Most people don't even know themselves. Let alone they absolutely don't know you.
And especially in business, we have comparisonitis, right?
Yes.
So I don't know where I remember that term, so I'm sorry I can't quote the person, but it's literally you're only seeing their social media version of their business.
Mm-hmm.
Like people have said, I don't know how you do it. You've written over 100 awards. I'm like, I burnt out during COVID. That's how. I never slept and I didn't have a weekend off for a long time.
Yeah.
It is not all glamorous. I'm not going to all the awards that I write for people. I barely enter any these days because I want to focus solely on my clients and give my energy to them. And any downtime is spent with my kids. So, even if I'm a finalist, I still haven't gone to some of these awards this year because my priorities have changed. So the business that you're comparing yourself to is probably very different offline.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
It's all just you're comparing with an illusion, right?
Yep. Let go of assumptions. You don't actually know what's going on.
Or I will.
Don't make me come over there and believe in you.
We will make you believe in you too.
We will do it. Oh my God. Oh, this has been so much fun, Mel. If anyone does want to get in contact with you, and I'm hoping that so many people do, how can they do that?
Oh, I am Mel from Mel Wrote It. So I'm at melwrote.com, or my handle is Mel Wrote It, WROTE, Wrote It, on social media.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for coming along today. This has been great.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
That is another episode all done of the Pricing on the Cake. Thank you so much for listening. If you know any other women in business who might benefit from the information that Mel and I spoke about today, please feel free to share it with them. And please rate the podcast if you really found it helpful. Don't forget that you can find more free resources in my Facebook group, The Pricing on the Cake. And until next time, have a great day.